Week 13 in the NFL. My money line picks, my best bets, and in my opinion, the most disrespectful line I've seen in the NFL in a long time. We'll get to it. It's one of the biggest games of the week. We got to start off, though, with Thursday night football. The Cowboys, who we know have trounced, what is it, like their last 18, 19 opponents, something like that at home, most of them by double digits. They now are a 9-point favorite against a playoff team at home against the Seahawks. Now, both of these teams played on Thanksgiving, so there is no short week. Both of these guys, are going to get a full weeks of rest. But Seattle, Geno Smith over the last month, we know he's been banged up. We know Seattle has not played well. It sounds like Kenneth Walker is not going to play. This Seahawks team looks a lot different than the team that was, supposed to play Dallas here a month ago. Dallas is really good at home. They're firing on all cylinders. I don't think Seattle necessarily matches up well with Dallas. I think it would help Seattle if this game was at home at Lumen Field, but it's not. It's an AT&T Stadium. We know the Cowboys, again, usually roll it all. Seattle's pass rush has not been great this year. Could Seattle find a way to stop Tony Pollard? Sure, but I think that there's too many weapons here. I think CeeDee Lamb has a really good game. I think Dak has a really good game. I think Dallas wins. The only tricky thing here is the line. Could Seattle cover? Could it be a closer game than most think? Yeah, I think more than likely Dallas would cover the 9 points, but there are some bigger lines this week and there are some better lines this week. So I'm not going to put it as part of my best bets, which, by the way, of course, last week we went 12-4 in the money line. That puts us at 123-57 overall on the year. We also went 4 for 5 in best bets. That puts us at 39 for 59 with one push on the year. We've been on over the last 3 to 4 weeks. Next game, we got Miami at Washington. Now, Washington fired their defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio. Ron Rivera is going to take back over play calling, basically to try to save his job. I don't think it's going to help. I think the Dolphins are going to win this game. I don't think Miami is going to be able to, or I don't think Washington is going to be able to cover the Tyreek Hill, the Jalen Waddles, the Raheem Mostert of the world. The Dolphins are favored by 9.5. Again, a lot like Dallas. I think it's more than likely they cover. I think there's better numbers on the board here. I'm not going to take the bet, but I like Miami to win this game. This has potential blowout material all over it. If it wasn't for Sam Howell potentially getting some scores in garbage time by throwing for a lot of passing yards like he's done the whole season. Chargers at Patriots. Listen, New England's bad. Brandon Staley has to win this game. This is the biggest coaching mismatch in the history of the NFL, potentially, with Brandon Staley against Bill Belichick. Belichick obviously has the advantage, but the team disparity is also huge. The Chargers have way more talent than New England. Mac Jones has been benched multiple times. We still don't know who's going to be the quarterback for the Patriots. My guess would be Bailey Zappi, though it could be Malik Cunningham, though I doubt it. I do think, the Chargers are going to win this game. I think, though, who knows? I can't trust Brandon Staley anymore. I thought they were going to beat Green Bay. They couldn't even do that. New England just bad. I mean, they couldn't even make a 35-yard field goal to take the Giants in overtime. It's really between the Patriots and the Jets right now as to who, your guess is of who could be the worst offense in football. I'll take the Chargers to win, though. I do think it's very possible New England could cover. Can't trust either of these two teams, so I'm not going to bet the game. Then, I have never bet on the Falcons, I don't think, in my life, but I'm about to do it this week as they're taking on Tim Boyle and the New York Jets. And Atlanta's played better over the last few weeks. I said, you got the Bucs, the Saints, the Falcons, all for this NFC South crown. I think right now Atlanta's probably the best team. Desmond Ridder isn't great, but hey, at least they're starting to get Bijan Robinson in the football. They're starting to get Drake London involved. They're starting to get Kyle Pitts involved. Arthur Smith here, maybe starting to put together a little bit of a run to get Atlanta into that postseason mix at, 8-9 wins, somewhere around there. And the Jets cannot move the football. I mean, I don't even know if the Jets can get 10 points in this game. I think Atlanta's going to win. I'll take Atlanta to cover the 3. And saying that, watch the Jets come back and win this game because nobody can trust the Falcons. But I think if there's one week in the history of life that you can trust Arthur Smith, it may be this week against the hapless Jets. People are banging on the Lions. I think they come back. I think they bounce back. I think they win at New Orleans. Jared Goff has not played well over the last couple of weeks, and that's at home inside a dome. Now he goes to a very noisy New Orleans, and yes, it's inside a dome, but he's going up against a good defense. And that's what has saved the Saints this season is their defense. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with Detroit scoring wise. The Saints kicked 5 field goals last week against Atlanta. They could not even get in the end zone. Their last 3 touchdown passes, 2 have been thrown by Jameis Winston. 1 has been thrown by Taysom Hill. It's not working out with Derek Carr. The Saints need to blow this thing up. They're basically a retread team, a lot like the Commanders in ways where they can win, 6, 7 games every year. They're really not going to be true contenders. Again, I think the Lions win, though I think there's a tricky spot here. I don't feel comfortable with the number. Could they pull out the Saints and get back on track? Yes. But I think that there are, again, more options on the board that I'm not going to take the number. I won't take the number here, though. Houston, I think they beat Denver by more than a field goal. So the Lions at 3.5. I don't think Denver can keep relying on running the football and getting turnovers, especially against this Texans offense, which, has been pretty good this year against, a Denver secondary who can have some limitations. I'll be very interested to see Patrick Surtain. Does he go on Tank Dell, who's been CJ Stroud's favorite target? But Houston now, they're at home back-to-back weeks after the critical loss in the close game to Jacksonville. And I believe that they were at home also against Arizona the week before. So this is their 3rd straight home game. Denver now coming on the road against a good Texans team, not a great Texans team. Denver is playing odd, but I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with CJ Stroud. I think the Texans have a good day offensively. They get back on track. They cover the 3-point spread. Now, Indianapolis, they lose Jonathan Taylor, but guess what? They essentially beat the Titans this year without Jonathan Taylor. I believe it was his first game back, and Zach Moss also ran wild in that game. So I think Zach Moss is going to fill in just fine. And what we've seen out of Shane Steichen this year is, whether it's losing Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew having to come in, whether it's overcoming Gardner Minshew, losing Jonathan Taylor, losing some offensive linemen, cutting Shaq Leonard. Indianapolis has always responded. They've always rebounded. And I think the Colts here can cover. I don't like what I've seen out of Will Levis over the last few weeks. I think Indianapolis, defensive coordinator Gus Bradley has seen Derrick Henry multiple times now. They've seen him this year. I think they find a way to slow down that Tennessee run game. They'll force Will Levis to drop back and throw, which we've seen he's not very good at yet. And Shane Steichen, the creativity of that Indianapolis offense gets the Colts over the hump. And don't look now, but the Colts are in playoff contention with Gardner Minshew after we all thought their season was over. Again, I'll take them to cover the 1.5 here. They're favored on the road. Then Arizona at Pittsburgh. This week's line, Pittsburgh's favored by 5.5, and I got to be honest, I don't trust it. When's the last time the Steelers have won? They beat Cincinnati 16-10, but their offense did not move the ball great. When's the last time we felt comfortable with the Steelers winning by a touchdown? We usually feel comfortable with this line at 2.5 to 3 points. Kyler Murray could play well for the Cardinals. They were embarrassed last week by their divisional rival Rams. They go on the road here against Pittsburgh. I think they'll be able to put up 10 or 13 points, though I keep saying I think Arizona is making a mistake here by sticking with Kyler Murray. I would go out, I would get a new quarterback, I would trade Kyler Murray, I would just, rip the Band-Aid off and get a new fresh start to this organization. But Pittsburgh, again, we know what they do. They play good defense. They're not going to score a lot. They are throwing the football more down the field since they fired Matt Canada, putting up only 16 points, and their offense not looking that much different. Again, Cincinnati doesn't give me that much confidence. I know they win, but I don't love this number here. I mean, Pittsburgh, I think, is going to win by 3 or 4, not 6. So I'm going to stay away from the bet. Now, Tampa, they're favored by 5.5, and I've been going back and forth on this because we all know first week, new interim head coach, surprises, them playing their lights out, Chris Tabor. Could they get this victory against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I suppose so, but I'm looking at this Carolina offensive line. By the time Bryce Young drops back, they almost have no time to throw. Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator. I think that they will, run a lot of blitz coverages here. I think that they will rattle Bryce Young. I think it will be very hard for Carolina to score. I have Tampa not only covering the 5.5 in best bets, but Tampa is my survivor pick this week. Sorry to my cousin, good old Derek Bowen, who I know wants the Bucs to tank for a quarterback. I've told him I think they need to see what they have in Kyle Trask. They need to tank for a quarterback, but they do have a game here against Carolina, which they should win because Baker Mayfield has played well over the last couple of weeks. They just have not been able to finish. Now, the Rams, they're taking on the Browns at home, and I bet the Browns last week against Denver. It burned me. I think the Rams are starting to get hot here. Matthew Stafford is healthy again. Cooper Kupp is healthy again. Aaron Donald's making a big difference. We said coming into the year, defensive side of the ball, it's Aaron Donald, and it's a bunch of kids. And we also said that as long as you have Stafford, Kupp, McVay, you're going to win games. Kyron Williams has been a nice surprise at the running back position. Their offensive line's been okay. It's not great, but it's been better than what it's been in a couple years. Sounds like Myles Garrett is going to play, but he does have a shoulder injury. And, as we all know right now with the Browns offense, whether it's going to be PJ Walker or DTR, a quarterback, or God forbid, Joe Flacco, I think the Browns need to hold an opponent to 17 or less points. Sometimes it feels like 13 or less points to win football games. I don't think it's feasible here against a Rams offense, so I think we'll at least get to 20. And I think here the Rams will win. Could it be 2017 and the Browns cover the 3.5? Sure, that's why I'm not going to make the bet. And then we get to the most disrespectful line, in my opinion, in the NFL in a long time. Because for the first time since 1970, a team at home that's 10-1, or 11-1 is an underdog. And that being Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. They are underdogs by 2.5 against the San Francisco 49ers. As I said on Tuesday, a lot of people say the Eagles are not as good as the Niners. They're not as good as last year. And I keep telling you, they have a better schedule than last year. They are winning close games. It does look different because of the scheme changes. No more Shane Steichen, no more Jonathan Gannon. Now you have Brian Johnson and Sean Desai. But Jalen Hurts is making plays when it matters, and the Eagles, no matter what game they go into, will always have a good opportunity to win, even against San Francisco, because they have the best offensive and defensive lines in football. San Francisco's offensive line is not as good as it was a year ago. And as I keep saying, if you pressure Brock Purdy, he will get rattled. I think the Eagles need to put a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy. I think this game will be won by the defensive line of Philadelphia. I am worried a little bit from Eagles' perspective of the fact that they did play 5 quarters last week against Buffalo. Now you got to go up against a very physical San Francisco team. Not to mention the fact that Nick Sirianni's good friend Frank Reich got fired this week. We saw what happened that week when the Eagles played the Colts. Nick Sirianni was very emotional in that game last year. They did not have their best strategy. And so I think that could play a factor here. San Francisco's looking for revenge. There's a lot of trash talking on both sides. I think in the end, it's a 23-20 game where San Francisco probably plays better the first half. The Eagles will keep it close. They will make the plays in the fourth quarter. 2.5-point dog. I'm taking the bet here. I think it's the best bet of the week. I think it is so disrespectful to those Eagles players in that locker room. The best team in football, clearly, over the 13 weeks here as we enter week 13 of the NFL season. And they're 2.5-point dogs to a team that's lost on the road to Cleveland, Minnesota, and then at home against Cincinnati in 3 straight weeks, where the Eagles' only loss was a 4-turnover game to one of the best defenses in the NFL and the best defense in the league at the time, potentially, in the New York Jets. Then Green Bay's been a nice story, but I don't think they can keep up with Kansas City. I'm going to take the Chiefs here. I think they bounce back prime time. We know they always play well in the whites here. It's only really a touchdown game. I think Kansas City can beat Green Bay by 7, so it's a 6.5 point spread. I'll take the Chiefs at minus 6.5. And then Jacksonville, I think they beat Cincinnati. Jake Browning isn't great. If Cincinnati had Joe Burrow, I think the Bengals may actually win this game, which again is the difference between having a star quarterback and not having a star quarterback. The Bengals now, like the Browns and Steelers, pretty much have to hope that their defenses can keep them in games. I don't think that they're going to be able to. The line is 8.5, which I've already made my best bets for the week, so I'm not going to bet it. But it does feel like here, outside of Dallas and Miami, who I said could cover the 9.5, I feel the same way about Jacksonville here, who could cover 8.5. But again, a turnover or a fluke play, or maybe Joe Mixon goes off, keeps the Bengals in it, and they cover. But I think ultimately Jacksonville will win the game. So to recap, I got Dallas over Seattle, Miami over Washington, LA Chargers over New England, Atlanta over the Jets, Detroit over New Orleans, Houston over Denver, Indy over Tennessee, Pittsburgh over Arizona, Tampa over Carolina, Rams over Cleveland, Philly over San Fran, Kansas City over Green Bay, and then Jacksonville over Cincinnati. My 5 best bets for Week 13 of the 2023 NFL season are: Atlanta covered 3 on the road against the Jets. Houston covered 3.5 at home against Denver. Indy on the road minus 1.5. They take care of business at Tennessee. My one dog of the week, Philly plus 2.5. I get the better quarterback, the better team. They're at home. They're motivated. They beat the Niners, and the Kansas City covers the touchdown, 6.5 point favorite against Green Bay.